So what is Git and why do we need it? What is GitHub? And how can we able to manage our projects with the help of Git and GitHub? Are you facing all these doubts? Then you must watch this video till the end. So hello guys, welcome to Smart Insight. I hope you are ready to take great insights from this Smart Insight. So without any delay, let us see today's agenda. So today we are going to discuss about Git and GitHub. So coming to what is Git? Git basically a version control system that is used to track changes in the code. Coming to GitHub, it is basically a web-based platform. By using Git actions, we will make use of this GitHub. So don't worry if you are not getting anything by just seeing these definitions. Once we have finished the practical implementation, you can definitely feel the subject. Coming to why do we need Git? Git can be used in various ways. Not various ways. We can get many benefits by using GitHub, like collaboration, backup and recovery, source code management. You will get the meanings of all these things once we have finished the one example and practical implementation. So now let us discuss how can we able to use Git and GitHub to our project. So let me consider an example. For example, three people want to do a project like P1 and P2 and P3. So this is basically GitHub, which is web-based platform. So to do the project, someone from these three people should initiate, right? Let us say he is the leader. Most of the cases leader will initiate, right? It was not like leader should only initiate, but most of the cases it will move, right? So let me make P1 as a leader and P2 and P3. Now if this group contains three people, right? If this group want to make use of Git and GitHub to their projects, they need to do following things. So the person who want to initiate the project, like in our case leader, that is P1, should do these things. First thing is creation of GitHub account. And the second thing is once he successfully created the account on GitHub, he need to create a repository, that is GitHub repository, also known as remote repository. Why remote? Because it is created on the internet. It is created at the web-based platform. That is why it is remote repository. And the third step is he need to create a local repository in his system. It is just like a folder to work on. The fourth step is he need to build a connection between this remote repository to this local repository. How I will tell you how to build a connection between local repository and remote repository, but just see the steps. And the fourth step is these steps are basic steps, and if he has implemented all these things, he can able to add project files into the GitHub, and also he can able to do any modifications if required, and also he can able to assign some works to the P2 and P3. So this is the duty of P1. So what about P2 and P3? So these people, the first thing they need to do is they need to clone the project, a repository that was created by his team leader in the GitHub account. Upon cloning, in their local system, the folder will get created, the project folder will get created. Now P2 and P3 can also able to see the files created by the P1. And also if they want to add something, they can also add. And even if they want to modify the files created by the person P1, they can do. So in this way, they can manage their projects and by working together. So now we will see how to implement all these things practically. So the first step is creation of GitHub repository. For that, we need to log into the GitHub repository if we have already the account. If we don't have the account, you need to sign up in the GitHub. Since I have the account, I have signed in. So here I can see the new symbol. It is used to create a new repository. So let me name my repository like something like my repo, and let me create this repository. So with this I have successfully created the remote repository. Now, so now I should create a local workspace in my machine. So for that, let me create a folder here like the folder name is like team, and So the first thing I need to do here is I need to initialize the Git in this folder. So for that, let me open this location in the terminal. So I need to execute a command that is git initialize. So let me do that. Before that, you need to check git version. If you found something version, basically it means that you have successfully installed the git. If you are not getting this thing, means you haven't installed the git. So you first need to install the git and then try all these things. So let me initialize the git repository in this folder. So upon executing this, you can see here initialized empty git repository in this particular location. You can also see here .git folder. So the next step is we need to do some basic configuration. So for that, let me open the terminal again. Configuration basically means telling the git who you are. I will tell you, like git config minus global user.name. Basically you should give your id here. So if I execute if config minus global user.name, since I have provided my name, it's supposed to give okay, the spelling is wrong, okay, these things will happen. You can see here smart 91 it was giving. So let me give my mail id also. So for that I need to use user.email. In the double quotes I need to provide my mail here. So with this step you have told the git this is me, and git can able to understand who you are. That is basically configuring the git means. So the next step is now you need to connect this local repository that you have created to the remote repository. For that you need to use this command, that is git remote add origin. You need to connect to this repository, right? So you need to copy this link, that is https link. If you want to find this link, just click on your repository and it will go through this interface and you can copy the url. So let me copy the same here. Let me execute it. So with this we have successfully built the connection between our local system to remote repository. So the next step is, if I want, I can add some files to the repository. For example, let me add text document here, like it is my first file and the name is first. Let me give some text here. Basically when you're working in a project, you're supposed to upload coding files like html files, .c files, .java files, but for the explanation purpose I'm using some .txt files. You can upload any file that you want. And let me give some message here, like I have created file and save it. Now there is a command called git status. Git status will tell you the status of the git. You can see here it was showing an untracked file. What is the meaning of this one? We have created a file named first, but it was there in our working space, that is team is basically a folder that we have created, and in that folder the first file is there, but it is not getting tracked by the git because we haven't added it. So to make Git track our files, first we need to add. So let us do that. So the file name is first.txt. So with this, I have successfully added into the staging area. In our local repository, there are two portions. One is local repository, and inside local repository, there is something called staging area. Once I have added the file, it will enter into the staging area. If I execute git status again, so changes need to be committed. So it means it was ready to committed. So if I want to permanently send this to the local repository, I need to use git commit, and I can also specify the message here, like most of the cases, whatever the thing that we have done, that we need to specify. What we have done here, I have created a file one, like uploaded. Now if I check git status, nothing to commit, working tree clean. But if I see my repository here, even though I have created the file and sent to the local repository, I'm not finding any file here. Why? Because we haven't pushed the file to the GitHub repository. That is the reason. So let me push it. Git push origin main. Main is the branch. If you want to know in which branch you are there, you need to execute this git branch. It will tell you. You can see here main. So we need to use main here. So what we want to do now, we are pushing the changes. Git push origin and main. So with this, we can able to send this file to the remote repository. You can check here. So this is the first.txt that was uploaded by me. Now, so here you can see, first of all, we have seen untracked file, and then what we did, we have added that file to the staging area, and then we have committed so that the file will be sent to the local repository. So from the local repository, it will go to the remote repository by using the command called, what was that, push. You see the hierarchy here. At first we have created this file, that is first. So to make it send to the remote repository, at first we have added, and then we have committed, and then we have pushed the changes to the remote repository. So before adding, the status of the file is untracked. It is not able to track this file because it was there in your workspace. Upon adding, it will enter into the staging area, and then once it is there in the staging area, it will ready to be committed. It was just like add is something like engagement, and committed is something like marriage. Once engaged means they are ready to commit it. Push is basically something like honeymoon. So these many things we need to do to make a file sent to the remote repository. Now we will discuss how basically P2 and P3 can access the file created by P1. If we really want to understand this entire thing, P2 and P3 must work on their systems. But to explain you, I will create a separate folder in some other location, and I will try to access this P1 files, and I will try to add some more files to this P1. So let us do that. Now to explain you how P2 or P3 can able to access the files created by P1. Basically P1 means leader. I will create a separate folder. If I want to implement really, I need separate laptops, but I'm explaining in the same laptop but from different locations. So let me create another folder here, like okay, the name should be like. So the first step is I need to clone the GitHub repository. For that I need to use this command. So git clone. So I need to copy the URL. I need to, so you can see here there is a URL. I need to copy this URL and paste it here. With this, I have successfully cloned the GitHub repository that was created with the person 1. Assume I am person 2. So now if I check the folder that we have created, you can see here it is basically our repository name. Inside Git has been initialized, and the first file that was created by the person 1 also I can able to get. For suppose I want to add a new file, let me create a new file here. Let me make it as second, and let me give some message like I am second person created this file. Let me save it. So if I open this file location in my terminal, and if I execute git status, it was showing an untracked file because we have created a file in our workspace, but we haven't added it to the staging area. So we need to do that first. Basically, since here we are having only one file, that is second.txt, so it is just enough even if we type this second.txt. But what if you have some 100 files are there to be added? Then you are not going to specify the name of each file, right? In those cases, you can simply place a dot here. It means whatever the files that are there in your working space will get added. So in this way we can use. Once we have added, let me check again the git status. So changes to be committed, it means it is ready to be committed. So let me do the git commit -m file to added and done. So with this we have committed, but we haven't pushed the changes. Let us do that. Git push origin main. So it will basically push these changes to the remote repository. You can check the remote repository here. If I refresh it, you can see the file second.txt that is basically created by the person one. So with this, I think you can able to understand how to work with Git and GitHub collaboratively. Now let us see some more comments. Before that, let us discuss whatever the comments that we have discussed till now. So Git init basically use it to initialize an empty GitHub repository in our local system. And git config is basically used to tell the git who you are. And coming to git add, it is basically used to add files into the staging area. For example, if you want to specify the file name, you can execute this command, that is git add, and you can specify your file name. Or if you feel there are many files need to be added into the staging area, in those cases you can simply use this git add dot, so that you can able to add every file that is there in your working directory to the staging area. And git commit, once we have added successfully, we need to execute this command to make the changes permanent, and then we need to use this push command to push these changes to the GitHub repository. And we have already seen clone. This is basically used to clone a GitHub repository to our local system. And here is something new that we need to discuss. So let me explain you that. So for example, here's a P1 and P2. P1 created a GitHub repository. In our case, P1 is the leader, and he has created a GitHub repository and added a file called file1. And P2 has cloned this repository that was made by the P1. Now he can able to get an empty repository that is got git folder in his local repository along with the file1 that is updated by the or added by the P1. For example, on the next day, P1 had added another file called file2. If P2 want to get those reflections, that is both file1 and file2, he need to use the command called pull. You may think like, why can't he use clone again? If you use clone again, a new git.git folder will get created again. So it is a copy of this GitHub repository. So that should not be the case, right? You need the additional information only. That is file2 only. In those cases, you can use pull. And the next thing is checkout. Git checkout basically means to enter into a specific branch. For example, so this is our project, and in your project there are various domains are there, like domains are what I can say sections are there. One section you have allocated to P1 and another section you have allocated to P2. Basically, he can create his own branch and he can create his own branch and work together to complete the project. Once they have successfully completed their projects, they can merge their branches by using git merge command. So this is basically about git merge. And one more command is git restore. So let me discuss that. Git restore basically use it to, for example, so this is the working directory and you have the files file3 and file4. You have executed the command git add file3. So upon executing the command, what it will do, file3 will be a copy of file3 will be sent into the staging area. Actually, the thing is, you are not intended to send this file to the staging area. Unfortunately, you have sent. It is not in your hand. It is unconsciously this file will be sent to the staging area. In those cases, what you can do is you can simply execute this git restore command. It will simply restore the file that was there in the staging area, and it will be again sent to this working directory. So in this way, we can use Git and GitHub to our projects. Mainly, we have discussed how to handle our project with the help of Git and GitHub. So I hope you understand it, and if you really like it, please do support me, and I will see you in the next video. Thank you.